Jian is an angel who defeated the Demon King in another world. Apparently, was summoned by the to save his ruined world. How? He fulfilled the mission entrusted to him. She is ready to send it back to its original world. The craziest thing is that during the 20 years he spent in that kingdom did not spend a second in its own dimension. This means he will be back at the exact moment when he was invoked. However, once it returns to its original world, we'll lose all the memories of those 20 years. But don't think that the is a stingy sting that will send him back without rewarding him adequately for their exploits. She grants him a fragment of divine power, although it is quite about what that really means. All he says is a lot of mystical jargon, with barely an explanation. Finally pushes him back to his original world as he, Jean remembers nothing of his adventures, wakes up thinking it's just a normal day. Kicks up his phone and sees an avalanche of messages from his manager. It seems that our protagonist is in trouble. So he skips breakfast and runs through the streets as if his life depended on it. Soon faces the fury of his furious manager, upset about his delayed Jian. Can't do much else but bend down, head, and endure scolding. Get back to work anyway. Disillusioned as any slave. Clearly, this work is not enough to do much, especially when you are struggling to pay the rent. Backward has to find a way to assume several part-time jobs, only to keep float. If only I had woken up earlier, things could have been different. Just when he's thinking that, the protagonist armor comes into play, and a system window appears in front of it. Has unlocked a unique feature, a broken one, known as a Master of Skills. Yes, Jean has finally woken up now. A little context about the awakened. People like Jean are called users. It has been 5 years since augmented reality, as a way out of a fantasy novel, began to take over the world, with fields appearing all over the earth. The world has begun to turn about the new resources they provide. Users are given grants the power to conquer and explore these fields dominated by monsters. Even the simplest tasks within those fields and generate enough money to survive. That's why everyone wants to be a user. Of course, it's a risky life going into the unknown. But the rewards are tempting. There is more honey. Sweet, that danger on the road, of course. Not all users reach the top. Some awaken with unique top-notch features from the beginning, while others are not so lucky at the top of the chain. Food is the world's #1 user named Muhammad Ali, is the first to reach level 70 and has a unique grade trait. It's called Dragon's Tongue. One day Muhammad Ali uploaded a video to his official YouTube channel. The title intrigued people, so thousands clicked. The video showed a display of power, insane, those that no one can stop looking at. That kind of magic is every magician's dream. Who has read a fantasy novel would recognize it. The spell Muhammad used is called Meteor Shower, a destructive force capable of raising countless lives in an instant. All those who saw it were speechless. No one thought he would witness a power so narrow the field that Muhammad threw in seconds. It was a grade field too. Even at level 70. Is almost impossible to overcome a range fielder. The meteorites alone annihilated everything in their path, including heroes capable of destroying a city. Pure power left everyone stunned. But what surprised the viewers most was the final part of the video where Muhammad launched a challenge open to all users. The ability that used Grade's Meteor Showers was so powerful that she promised to deliver a rare artifact, the Elemental Ring, to whom I could show a more spectacular magic than that. The Elemental Ring is the only artifact of degree publicly known, and it is the ultimate relic that everyone dreams of possessing. Two users were talking about the challenge were disappointed because Muhammad had put the rod so high that it seemed impossible to reach. The woman was upset, thinking that Muhammad's challenge was a trap. Who could even have a grade straight? Even if someone had it, I would never get the Elemental Ring unless Muhammad personally approved of his power of attorney. Given the high level he had set, the guy had no real intention of delivering the ring. It was just a demonstration of power. The video of his challenge went viral and became the theme most commented on all the news. Muhammad's challenge seemed like an impossible feat, one that no one could match. That was until our protagonist appeared when N stood in the field, moved his finger indifferently, and immediately began to fall meteorites from the sky, enveloping everything in flames. The meteor shower was so devastating that destroyed everything. After causing too much destruction, Jean raised his thumb, silently thanking Muhammad Ali for showing him such an incredible ability naturally. All those who were watching were completely perplexed. At the national level, the keyboard warriors flooded the comments section, reacting to the tragic defeat that Muhammad Ali had just suffered. The big question on everyone's mind was, who the hell is this guy? Now it's time for another round of context, especially the subject of awakenings and unique features. When users wake up, usually receive a unique trait. A unique feature essentially improves the effects of certain abilities and is often considered to be as a class in a video game. Some of the features best known revealed to the world are Dragon's Tongue, that helps a magician to be more powerful than a dragon. The second is literally a trait capable of granting healing powers that, as they say, they can even revive the dead. Then comes regeneration, that turns someone into an unstoppable tank that can regrow its contours. And finally, a lethal blow that transforms the user in a warrior capable of defeating any enemy. But here comes the twist. There is no mention anywhere of a feature called Master of Skills, which is precisely the one that Jean woke up after thorough internet research. Hardly found details about him. By evaluating unique features, the first thing to take into account is the category. Generally, the higher the category, the better the effects and the more subtractions it possesses. Categories range from F to S. When Jean checked his feature, discovered that he was of an unknown category called X. Then looked at his statistics, which were quite disappointing, to say the least. Was naturally discouraged when she saw how short they were. You would see a high category trait supposed to come accompanied by an increase in statistics. So it is somewhat strange that they were left so low. Almost nobody receives such poor statistics with a high-end trait. Revised its subtractions, and so far it had only 2. Once again it was somewhat disappointing, as I expected more. At that point Jean was just confused, without specific details on its feature, but it seems to be about to receive some clarity. The following system notification gave you a mission tutorial that told him to copy a skill. Once it activated, the ability would gain 20 skill points. However, there was a trap. Skills copied are deleted automatically as soon as midnight arrives. That mission of the system was totally unexpected. Which was even more unexpected was the fact that in order to copy a skill from someone, had to go out into the field and see users in action. And frankly, given how horrible his statistics were, that sounded like a suicide mission. Yet I didn't have many options if I needed. Find an ability to copy and complete the mission. Then came up with an idea. Remembered Muhammad Ali, who had demonstrated the meteor shower skill. As soon as the system saw this transmission, showed all the juicy details about the ability. When the system asked him to copy the ability, Jean was shocked. Did not expect to be able to copy an ability simply by watching a video from the comfort of your home. And so Jean appearing on all news channels. After winning this open challenge, seeing his face everywhere in the news, Mohammeded a smile. However, her grandmother was not sure what to give away. The elemental ring in that way would be a good idea. Mohammed seems not to have cared much about the ring itself. It was more by the fact that the ability he had gained just a few weeks ago, before it was now being used by someone else. The teacher argues that there are many skills similar to the meteor shower, but Muhammad insists on coincidence. Not only the skill that our boy acquired is of grade, but also has exactly the same name. The crowd remains unconvinced, pointing out that it has not yet been verified that it is actually grades. It is possible that everything is a demonstration of power, carefully assembled. His words fail to change Muhammad's opinion. He is pretty sure that this ability is at least grades, and which is also accompanied by a unique feature, then suggests that she deliver a business card together with the ring, explaining that he wants to act with caution and that he will not deliver the ring in person. Also expresses his desire to befriend Jean in the future and wants that message to be delivered along with the ring. Some time later, we found our maniac looping its own transmission as if it were a new religion. The video is exploding on the internet, and it is natural that the type, start going crazy, is practically drunk with his own hype. While enjoying her fleeting fame, a little girl on the counter is clearly desperate for her attention. But the guy is so gone that he doesn't even notice his presence. Eventually, The girl's father explodes. Man is clearly, I am annoyed to see that this Ahem in particular is skipping work when Jean finishes serving customers, is left behind, fall into his chair, and let out a long sigh of defeat. Looks like it's not going to get anything after completing this challenge, much less an object of grades. Just a few days ago, was a nobody, invisible, doing absolutely nothing. But since he awakened his trait, finally begins to believe in himself a little bit. Yes, I could only earn enough money to live comfortably, forever maybe even, will become so strong as Mohamed Ali and bathe in the worship of the masses, is still daydreaming when a notification suddenly takes it out at once, is a comment directly from Mohamed Ali in his video. The legend in person has just promised to deliver the reward he deserves for winning the challenge. The internet goes crazy instantly. The big fish finally drops the bomb and everyone loses their head even. Jean can't believe it. Cut to the next scene. The guy is sitting stiff as a board next to a teacher who came to give him the gift. Promised even takes him home in a luxury car as if it were the most normal thing in the world. The guy is still with the same expression he had before. Half shock, half what the heck is my life. Back in your room. Jean observes the ring. Still don't know if this is a dream or a system bug. Then the system kindly displays the elemental ring statistics, and they are crazy. Every statistic is absurd, as if it were the most broken loot from a box of level loot that. It is at that moment when Jean abruptly returns to reality. This is not the time to gawk at. This ring gives you a real opportunity to train in earnest. Hunting in the fields is the only way to climb your level 1 statistics. But there is a problem. Doesn't even have money for decent armor. Of course, your viral video generated a lot of income, but cannot remove any of that without verifying his identity, and doesn't really want to do it. So sit down, squeezes his brain and comes up with a solution. Instead of risking his life within a field, will be established outside and provide services. Emergency healing. After all, healing is profitable just by looking after everything. Wounded at the entrance of a field and earn hundreds of thousands of wands. Even hunters, conceited that are mockery of the healers, would not dare to enter without one stationed nearby. Jean has copied a grade healing skill. Strong enough to cure flies, amputations, and altered states up to degree F, and win 200,000 won per championship, 500,000 per amputations, and 700,000 for altered states. Not bad for a day at work. So, the next morning Jean sets up his camp in front of the field, swampy range of near the Great Soul Park. Did not choose a low-level location on purpose, it's just that all the good places were already occupied. With no customers in sight, starts looking at his phone, while thinking that maybe I should wear something fun next time to kill boredom. At least he's not going to be trampled here by the gentleman. Is it a safe area? Or so you think. Suddenly a guy runs at full speed, carrying a woman, seriously injured. The man is scary, like a storm-made person. Jean is totally paralyzed, even forgetting how to breathe at that moment. The man, the runt in tone, authoritarian to start curing it immediately, but Jean doesn't like that shade one bit. Reminds you of those fools with airs of superiority in the convenience store, those who acted as if they were the owners of the place. And although this ability of healing is not even originally yours, is grade G, and has good options, is not going to waste it on just anyone who does not even know how to ask for things with education. Is about to refuse when the man offers him a magic bundle of 200,000, won in advance. Switches immediately to customer service mode, with respect activated. Soon after, repentance comes when he sees the severed arm of the woman and feels her stomach spinning. The man places the limb in its place and demands that healing begin. Jen is forced to watch. The wound is so frightening that even the air seems to shrink. He is not even sure that his degree of healing is sufficient. But you can't know without trying. So activate recovery light. After serving its customers, Jean is back home lying in his bed with the half-hearted soul, although it costs good money. Had to use his ability 3 times, which left it completely drained. Without the elemental ring it would have been impossible. What worries him most is how that group came out so shattered in the first place. The only conclusion is that the fields are very dangerous, and it will be better than this. Avoid for now. Yet he is grateful. At least, this job is better than rotting behind a counter, dealing with stingy clients who believe that spending 1,000 won't give them the right to survive. With this new work, would probably retire to all his bloodline and relax until the end of the world. as he already has enough money to survive a good time. It is time to concentrate on earning skill points and climbing levels. Suddenly, a mission tutorial appears, which tells you to level up its sublime, specifically passive income. Liabilities are one of the key methods of acquiring skill points, which is crucial for the growth of its skill master trait. Should also take into account that improving this sublime is a top priority for its development. Now Jean finally understands, because subtractions also have levels. It turns out that it can further harness its potential if it improves them with skill points needs. 100 points of ability to climb. Level the passive income subnet. This ability gives him 10 skill points every 24 hours, and unfortunately, if it spends those 100 points of ability to improve passive income, will receive 100 skill points as a reward for basically completing the mission. Is a situation in which he wins everywhere. Will also unlock another new subplot once you complete the mission. So, there is no doubt, needs to improve its passive income subtraction. After reviewing how many skill points he has, realizes that it will have to wait another 3 days to gather the necessary points and complete the mission. During those 3 days, decides to use his time to experiment with copying new combinations of skills and the like. To further improve the picture, service personnel arrive in the room with all the delicious food I had ordered. With the banquet in front of him, goes to eat while sees other users with unique features, focuses especially on grade skills, that or higher, the type that almost only legends exist at this point. Although copying these rare abilities is useless, the sad reality is that they disappear as soon as midnight arrives. To solve this problem, need to record all these videos on your phone to be able to see them whenever you want. Still not surpassed as Muhammad Ali appeared as a reflection out of nowhere, showing his grade skill that Jean then copied. Although it still needs discovering how to preserve these skills copied longer. There may be a way to preserve them all, and sufficiently improves its skill master trait. Then decide to organize all the videos in a playlist, prioritizing which use later and which ones to take advantage of immediately. Make sure to add skills such as body. Another skill is teleportation, which sounds pretty cool. The list continues to grow and adds all the essentials. A while later, after watching videos, non-stop also makes sure to clean up the entire banquet. Is literally bursting, with the stomach swollen like a helium balloon about to explode. Feels happy, because it has already secured its future, registering as a healer with the user association, and with all the skills up his sleeve. Your user value is destined to skyrocket. Can barely wait for the day when all the girls, dead and devastated, they throw themselves at her. The next day, while sitting just outside the fields, that wounded from a few days ago appears to thank her for, is completely cured, showing the full range of their abilities. But it seems that this fool does not recognize her. When she asks him if he really doesn't remember her, the madman simply says no, as if he had never seen her in his life. After all, this woman who looks like is too beautiful for someone like him. She is, then reminds him that a few days ago her brother brought her there, and that he was the one who cured her. Now that he mentions it, memory is born quickly, and finally remembers that it was that damsel in trouble with shattered hand. He literally thought she was the guy's girlfriend, for all the money spent on it. But it turns out that she is actually his sister. The woman is glad I finally remembered her, which makes it easier for her to express her sadness. If it weren't for him, I would be dead. Then asks if it forms part of a team, to which Jean replies, no, for obvious reasons. She wants to know if she is in any guild, but once again the answer is negative in this case. Invites you to join his group, as he needs a temporary healer. Jen is surprised by the unexpected invitation, as it is not fit to go into. In the fields still, decides to reject the offer, but with the way it is showing her hidden side. This loser out cannot resist and accepts the proposal instantly. Before they can continue talking, both are by the charisma. Complaint of a wounded man screaming as if he were a child. His teammate moves him off the field, and he needs immediate healing, who simply ignores the girl and gets to work. Assisted the injured immediately. In a short time, man is as good as new again, and Jean earns a good amount of money for it. But let's not forget the promise he made to the girl about joining your group, as he is already making a lot of money on his own. Does not feel the need to join his team. especially considering that its level is too short to walk in the field. So he declines his offer again. The girl is still trying to convince him, revealing that they have a grade tank. Sandon's grade magician, who would back him up, is quite sure that they can carry it without any problem, but Jean simply look at its things and the proposal is again being rejected. The reason for her refusal is simple: she saw her leaving half inside a grade field from just a while ago. So there's no way I want to suffer the same fate. Of course, he doesn't say it out loud, knows that this is an opportunity, unique in life, to be recruited by a beauty like her. But it seems that fate is not on their side and has to reject it even if he doesn't want to. Food and money are the only things left behind, while the only thought in his mind flees is to raise enough money and skill points as quickly as possible to become a golden spoon magician. Enjoying his new life of luxury, Jean discovers that he has gained 10 skill points thanks to the passive income effect. Investing its points in improving that same skill spends 100 skill points to unlock an improved passive entry variant. Will now receive 50 skill points, free every 24 hours without moving a single finger. Such a pleasure to live with that soul. Reviews: the reward of the mission he completed earns another 100 skill points and attains the ability to the unique trait of any ability that copies. Now would be a good time to talk about the specific features in this world, as they represent a player's tendency to use a skill that normally players or users can use skills after obtaining them from skill books. That's an unconditional rule for everyone, but the power of each skill varies according to the user's talent. For example, if an ordinary person has no innate traits, your fireball will be ridiculous compared to someone with a fire. That is why mastering multiple skills is considered essential, because without the player's original talents, the ability is enormously weakened. The only difference is the ability he copied from Mohamed in the video, but that was because the system showed it to him as a way of explaining how everything worked. However, with its new bestowal ability, any skill it copies as well will the original player's traits. This means that the copied skill will have the same performance and actual, yet he does not understand what it implies, exactly the random word in all this. So he wants to try a few things to make sure they work. Their powers in detail for now. Thinks it is a good opportunity to get out of his life as a freelance healer. Jean receives a tutorial mission to hunt flies using their copied ability. In this way you can raise, level and improve stronger versions of the same ability. Your mission demands that you defeat at least 20 and will obtain a total of 200 points for doing so. Coincidence at the time is so accurate that our boy begins to wonder if any god up there is watching and responding to his every wish. Anyway, since it is a home mission, needs adequate skill, so he starts looking for a video that shows a fire skill and wonders if he should steal to practice our. Proto is basically stealing the most spammable jutsu. Jean does not have high expectations and acts like he's just trying things out for fun. By its copying ability, gets a fireball of rank E. Is a fairly simple skill with an equally simple cost. As the system told him, also obtained the ignition feature as its product, which allows you to access a greater effect. Yes, at this point, is convinced that someone is watching him because they are practically giving him gifts. Anyway, our boy enters through the door of the field located in the sheep farm, observes the dimensional variation, and wonders if it is the division between the field and reality. Jean decides to go all out and buy equipment just to be sure. Upon entering the field gives welcome you to your new life as a hunter instead of being a healer. My interest Tanto Juan becomes popular in these forums like the fire psychopath who massacres low-level users, saw him go crazy, killing monsters all alone. So a lot of greedy losers approached him and even tried to invite him to their guilds. Our boy cannot avoid acting indifferently, reminding them that they have already turned down an offer from a high-ranking broad, that first level one, which is hilarious, if you remember how it happened, running with a face of total depression. And he doesn't even remember laughing while hunting. So the funny thing is that during the battle royal, the Prota laughed like a villain while executed his enemies. Jean suddenly remembers that, and he thinks he clearly got carried away with emotion. By defeating the Celestes wins the skill points of fine needed, and also reduces the cost of use of its copying ability, is a very positive thing, because Jean had been looking for a way to continue hunting with less expense. Browsing the community forum, learns of a publication about an incursion into the field of the chief obsidian bear. by the comments. All are impacted seeing the fire psychopath defeat the obsidians without any type of equipment, and it still has a low level. At the same time, Jean reflects that he could only make it because he spam fireballs without the need for anything else. A revelation hits him as if it were running him over a truck and falls, recalls that he received a gift of the world's highest rated user, Muhammad, to whom he still owes for the ring. Let's go back for a few days to see what really happened in the battle against the chief obsidian bear that was completely out of control, forcing the tanks to jump to the front to withstand their fury. In the meantime, the magicians kept safe in the rearguard. Like our boy had been given a mission to defeat the chief. I was quite happy, especially for the promise to win 500 points of history. The strange-looking obsidian bear was terrorizing the team until Juan threw a ball at him, a fire that struck him squarely, causing an absurd amount of damage. The group leader remained in shock and noticed immediately to the fire wizard, who acted as if it were no big deal. The angry bear continued to receive fireballs until he fell to the ground. The rest of the team froze, wondering if the fight was over. But to their horror, the obsidian bear roared loudly, in its ability to rank, to which he reduced all his statistics. The state of fury is a second phase of this boss, despite the fact that they had already caused him considerable damage. Intensively, players are so weakened by this weakening that can barely stand up. The obsidian bear then enters his will be able to attack the leader of the group, who can barely defend himself with his sword, while the rest of the equipment is practically unknown under the effects of this nerf all but one. The system grants Giant an additional mission to copy the boss's skill, and for this demonstration is given a copying space, free to execute it immediately, thanks to the evaluation effect integrated in the system, and also inspect the ability of the before copying it. The details of the obsidian bear's roar appear before your eyes and immediately activates the copy effect the boss's ability, which comes with an additional nerve. One aspect of your ability is randomly eliminated. In this case, the condition that required 50% health care, allowing us to use all other unrestricted effects. Giant is genuinely surprised that he can use the ability without any cost or condition, making it practically the same as a trap. Knowing that the ability will disappear at midnight, sees the opportunity and his own version of the bear's roar. Obsidian Jean's use of obsidian bear roar instantly leaves all his companions stunned with their statistics decreasing. The group suspects that the bear roared again, when in reality it was our boy. Unfortunately for them, all your stats go down just to make Jean receive an upgrade, which increases all its statistics by 9 points. That's a trap. As for the cute little bear up ahead, our boy walks quietly towards the beast, hairy, with no fear of anything in her way, pointing a finger at the sky with a smile. This guy creates a gigantic fireball, burning, and then is their fury on the bear that gave them so much trouble. The group stays completely gawking at seeing how Hen destroys obsidian bear. With the defeat of the field leader, our boy goes up 2 levels and also keeps copied skill. But this event special only happened because it was part of the tutorial mission, who showed him that he can also copy boss skills. Also rewards it with a total of 700 skill points, which is incredible. As you will imagine, Jean is living life with his new powers. Shortly after the defeat of the creature, his group shouts of celebration, saying how cool he looked when he took care of the boss by himself. The scene reminds our grandfather of the moment in which he killed the demon king in that other world. The system absorbs the soul of this obsidian bear and also increases our boy's stats. All this soul stuff is new to Giant, as I had only heard of it until now. We will explain in more detail these field chiefs normally have 10 levels higher than the level field average, which means that if someone tries to use a high-level player to kill the boss for them, the field detects it and causes the mercury to disappears immediately with the missing body. You cannot obtain valuable objects, which means that doing Smurf does not reward you here. Now, the real reason players love to hunt field managers is basically reduced to a simple fact. Want an object from the boss to fall, which is the case in our fortunate case, since one of the types discovers the object left by the obsidian bear. Objects that leave the bosses make all the effort of the players worth it, and then the delicious of the chief who defeated can also be sold at a good price. But other than that, our boy is freaking out about the fact that his strength statistics increase. The best of participating in a raid is that by completing it and defeating the boss, each of them receives a permanent increase in its statistics. Jian's group is completely in love with him for completing the raid. In a tan casual openly say that he was the reason for their victory. The leader of the raid mentions, as if I expected completely, that his group suffered many injuries right after the obsidian bear will enter a state of fury, but thanks to our boy's efforts, no longer have to worry about it. Interacting with the status window, the leader of the group inspects the object left by the boss. Although it is valuable, it comes with an apathy condition that requires the player to have less than 30% health, which also means you will be on the brink of death when it is useful to you. Anyway, the leader of the raid states that the objects fallen will be distributed according to the judgment of the user association. However, an ugly guy wants to buy the boss's object at that very instant and is willing to deliver 90% of the cash value. Group members begin to murmuring about opportunists who only appear practically every time a boss object falls. Its sole objective is to collect special items, so they are inly known as the boss object hunters. But in this case, as they are offering a fair price, it does not seem something so bad. However, Jian is a little bit skeptical, and his danger detector is becoming crazy. Doesn't understand what these guys are really looking for. Yet one of the bodyguards open the briefcase to show the pile of money, confirming that they can make the payment immediately by simply bright cash view. Turns our boy into a gold digger who suddenly no longer cares not at all what their intentions are. The scene changes. A Jean sitting in the same crappy field as always, who is suffering from pure despair because you don't even feel I just won 10 million won. This is because Jean has been infatuated with a special armor set called direct leather armor. Unfortunately, this thing achieved the astonishing amount of 63 million. Enough to break his heart. After learning that there are only 2 left sets of that armor in existence, walks as if he were in ruin or living in poverty, when in reality the guy just has expensive tastes. Anyway, the mind, Jihu, is focused on hunting as much as possible for the time being. Opens up the status window to access the rewards of your mission tutorial. Fortunately for him, can access the boss's skills with this. But the ability is still risky to use, because it requires its health to go down at least 50%. But it's okay, because our boy has had much more fun abusing him of his fire ability than with anything else. No customers to bother you at this time. Decides to invest some of the points that it has saved to further improve your statistics. Now has a lot of options available. For example, if it were on the fantasy route, could end up being an incredible warrior. Yet he does not want to risk his life so intensely in one place where danger is imminent. Every day, upon noticing a change in their magical power, spends 500 points to improve copying ability, which allows you to attain additional copy per day. This is some very worrying news for him. The tutorial mission also points out that these daily missions are the only safe way to obtain skill points. Receives a sudden daily mission. Your task is simple. Using your copying ability twice is a way to fairly easy to guarantee 80 story points. This also awakens our boy's curiosity, because he is not sure what would happen in the event of copying the same ability twice. When watching a video, decides to copy the healing light skill after acquiring it, wonders whether the trait will be affected or not. So he decides to do the same thing again, but the system warns that you have already copied this ability. Ignoring the system type, continues and copies the ability for the second time. To his astonishment, shortly thereafter, updates the sign on his blackboard that now says he will sell sanction along with an improved experience, 5% per million won. This rare offer calls the attention of many players who gather around him. Being the trader, Slee who announces his offer loud and clear. The people around you are left shocked and questions her words. After all, an improvement in experience is totally unprecedented. At first, they think he is a swindler who can steal the money and run away, but our boy is just waiting to be flooded with the sweet cash you are looking for. Suddenly a magician approaches him, removes hood, revealing that it is the same ranking mala as before. As he provokes him to join his group, watching it again as well, is literally blinded by his mesmerizing beauty. He tells him that he is currently focused on his business, what makes her joke, saying that from the looks of it, has not yet obtained a single customer. That's why he's more than happy, from being your first customer, to test the product. who treats them like kings and asks them to pass on. With the activation of his newly acquired healing light ability, increases their combat experience by 5%. Before leaving, she gives him her personal card and number, saying he is waiting for his call. Are desperate for a good healer, and it seems that Fine really has an eye for our boy with how he is. Even more important, does you a great favor by confirming to everyone about the viability of their service. This causes a shortage of customers to run to get the same service, and also feels like a millionaire to people, giving money in the face. While that happens, let's check again what is going on with Fine and his brother. His brother is somewhat frustrated that she is so with a guy. The Manga reminds you of your dear brother, that your group will be unstoppable after this. The two of them are already good at what they do, so all they need is now a reliable healer. And then comes the fact that this guy can also make experience improvements. That's a stroke of luck if they manage to achieve it. Yet his brother has objections, as they are dealing with a rookie. But she thinks that's the best part, to have noticed it so early right now. Not many people in the world know Hein's talents, so it is better to catch it as soon as possible. The rank magician has entered the dungeon. Sees its firestorm blow, killing a group of warrior lizards. Continues with his previous conversation and has the feeling that someone like Jean has a bright future as a warrior. With the millions earned from its large sales, our boy finally jets his armor and looks amazing with that outfit. Laced at the same time, is in the mood to generate passive income instead of direct income. So play with the system screen and learn that you can obtain easily between 50 and 200 points per day in the hour default. This means that even if it does nothing, your skill points will accumulate every day. Our boy is in the middle of calculating the cost of his ability required to reach level 3 of copying skill, until it receives a coup de reality and realizes that it will cost you no less than 4,000 points to go to the next level. The good thing is that daily missions give a large number of these points, which means that with a fixed cup of obtaining 200 points per day will take about 49 days. Get what you want. But for now, is more interested in uploading your statistics first, since that has priority. So Jean thinks it would be a good idea to go to another field battle. Also wears his sweatshirt and remembers that he is known publicly as a healer. So now he's going to play the role of his hidden identity as a magician and continue to use it. The scene changes to the field battle, but unfortunately the place is on a terrain muddy. What ruins our guy's attire? The known as the Bay. Goran specializes in nullifying attackers and tanks, who wonders if the test field is aimed primarily at level alarm clocks. Clear beginner with field limitation. He is struggling to collect the miserable souls of the bosses, recalling the warning that read from one of the members of the online community. Thinks everything will go good because nothing happened during the raid against the obsidian bear. Then what could go wrong? All our boy wants is to go home. But the way these fucking clowns are talking to each other so quietly, every nerve in your body is irritated. One of the guys approaches him and asks him if he really is a man or not, all because he invented his name for participation in the raid. Also wonders what has happened to the left side. It turns out that the girls are being seduced by a blonde guy who clearly doesn't know how to, when, and where to do these things. At this point, Jean really regrets not having well reviewed their peers before joining this successful raid. The guy, blonde, tells everyone that they should log in. Informative, but at this point, seeing how he sticks his nose into all the girls' affairs, Jean wouldn't be surprised if this guy was dating the whole group. Anyway, the blonde clown expresses that his strategy is simple and needs no further explanation, but which will be reviewed once again by the boss of this field, is called the Crab of Marsh and has the ability to become faster every time it is stunned with a weakening by the players. That eliminates the weakening effects of the magician, because it will only make the battle more difficult. As the chief angel, the crab will grow stronger. Also has some weaknesses, self-inflicted, like being hurt or bleeding, which means it will become faster over time due to mysterious injuries. The objective is to this type of without causing him much injury, because after a certain number of injuries the chief exhibits a special effect. This alerts our boy until the boy returns to his attitude. Asura, who has already defeated 8 Colombians bosses like this, so this should also be easy for them. Jean evaluates the situation anyway and wonders if the crab's ability to win statistics by weakening is a skill. Own special. This is important information, because basically means that a weakening will be considered an improvement. So, this ability could be useful for him. At the same time, it is quite upset by the dating scene, what is happening, and wonders if the dead weights of your equipment will be useful or not. The field battle begins when the warrior blonde begins to cut and tear the creatures apart. You may be wondering at this point if they are really good, but the part funny is that they are here bragging about killing small-sized clams and acting as if they were very important because of it. The group is acting as if they were tearing down hordes of heroes when in reality are just a few clams that could fit in your hands. Even Hen wonders if he is losing his sanity by being part of this group that believes it is doing a lot of, after basically defeating level 1 bugs. The clown's confidence blonde goes out the window when tentacles emerge with round spikes, causing this man to immediately back down even though was so confident in protecting his group and bragging about before, as the chief engineer at this level only appears after a certain number of creatures have been killed, are trying to take down as many beasts as possible. So, shoot down the like creatures 100 feet with a hail of misfortunes. Jean has done nothing so far, and is quite happy that they are enduring quite well. The players here they already possess strong skills for an level field. Is therefore anticipating that the Argentinian main boss comes out now. Well, maybe it will come out too soon, because one of the mouth-like clams of the crab or marsh emerged from the ground and swallowed an entire corpse. The group realizes that the real incursion is about to begin with these appearance of the marsh crab resulting in be much bigger than some expected given that the boy boss is known to be limited in his movement, are told to attack him in a manner linear A instead of going left or right. Mientras tanto, our boy is quite observing the details of the crab's actual ability, has found a stroke of luck with a unique ability like this. Anyway, right after appearing in the field, the chief engineered their terror and scared these cowards. Istan funny how the crab is able to change direction and adjust its movement in a manner different from what the group expected. Also judging by his genes, judges that his special ability is a permanent passive, which increases statistics as more and more improvements are applied, or weakening again. This is our boy a lot. When it's his turn, use it by itself. As for the blonde clown, he is supposed to be the main tank of his group, but it is in the back, sitting out of battle. Judging by his previous words, Jean feels that if they continue to strike with physical attacks, will be in trouble due to weakening. Self-inflicted bleeding, long archers, reach of the group are ensured to keep the crab at a distance, while our boy wonders what your strategy really is. Even the crab wonders what the hell are making these fools, because clearly none of the attack is working. The incursion process seems tedious and slow, and thanks to the dense creature shell, will not be able to penetrate or damage it alone with arrows from afar. Seeing that the situation requires his presence, the clown blonde acts like an angel who has come to save the day, when he clearly should have gotten involved much earlier, then casually asks one of the girls for an upgrade. But that's not even the worst. The worst thing is that it is not even a real improvement, are simply playing roles to boost their morale. If I were Jean, probably I would let the crab kill them all here. Anyway, our boy waits for the end of its session, uncomfortable, and understands who will need an attack powerful to defeat with a single blow. For your surprise, the blonde clown exhibits special power that there could not have been of a guy as carefree as he is. Apparently, is called Power Radiant, and is a rank ability, double that, which applies a lot of improvements to the target. Its duration also increases, depending on the personal rank of the target. Jian is as happy as he can be, because he has basically found gold in a level field, low with the discovery of this rare new ability. Recalling his conversation with these saleswomen who was showing him the equipment armor, learned that many players liked to upload videos to its channels, so his business decided to prepare articles like that one as well. She explains in detail the technology, what flies above his head, as well as above the leave back to the current scene. It turns out that their glasses are special and can record images of the battle. This later will help you access the skill at any time you want. If it can combine Power Radiant with the boss's skill, will be a combination beautiful and complementary to receive a lot of improvements and increase your statistics. Also learns that the rank improving ability that comes from Mrs. who apparently does not even know his own value. Having been enhanced by the improvement, Blonde decides it's time to his abilities. First ask our boy to attack the boss with some bouts of great damage, so Jean casually throws a gigantic ball and causes insane amounts of damage to the crab. And only to top it off, has released a secret letter especially for this occasion, which is activated as a second part of the fireball effect, with the song of explosion, the type of tone to the same fireball. I need an opportunity to further increase the damage. The of the battle are quite anticlimactic, since the crab is literally cooked to the point that they can now bank with him. As for the blonde, is devastated because Jean stole his moment, acting as if the crab is going to perform some kind of special movement of this type. Ali throws himself towards the crab to finish him off. The funny part is that it is swinging his sword against a creature that is already dead and in place of having the self-awareness to realize that he did something embarrassing. The guy is proud of himself. If these neuroscientists would somehow get their body, probably would find zero brain activity inside his head. Even the faces of the group members, they tell you a lot about their pets, are wondering what the hell just happened. Anyway, Jean notices the sudden change. The ability called Resistance to Marsh Crab Change is now officially part of its arsenal. Now, he just needs to go home and use the effects combined resistance to change together with power radiant to see what kind of magic you can create. With the boss defeated, the guy only wants to go home when suddenly the whole group starts to look at it, and they give it all credit for having such a powerful attacking ability, and they are grateful for their efforts to bring to the deadweight team. Seeing that the focus is on Giant instead of him, the jealous blonde asks them to concentrate in the distribution of objects instead of wasting time. At least the type is happy that the girl still supports him strongly, until it breaks his heart in 1,000 pieces when he's going to worship Jean in the same way. The group is actually fine with give you the most of the reward of the field to our boy because of its contribution. While this happens, one of the agents notes the situation and the rejection of this, reports the information to its leader by explaining how there were no falling objects by the boss this time. So, they will concentrate on the next place instead of this. Mientras tanto, Aishi's eyes change color as he looks up at the sky. Something tells me it has more mystery than we think. In the following scene, our boy defeats a lot of savages, ends the mission daily, and rewards it with 300 points. But all this effort just to get to level 3 has exhausted it quite a bit. Also testing the potential of the two skills by combining its effects at the same time. The improvements are incredible if only out of this world, but comes with an obvious problem. Opening the state window reflects that does not have enough copy counters to do something with the effects. Think about it this way, since both skills are improvement skills, which is exactly what is enhancing heart from your body when you can't even use more than 2 copying abilities at the same time. The answer is nothing. So that's why this combination is delicious until I get the 3rd copy slot. The tedious process makes him complain because our boy just wants to gather more skill points to climb of rank, since who is lying there in a field of silence waiting that some kind of poison grant you a special rewarding mission. With more points, the guy doesn't have much hope. When suddenly, the system screen appears out of nowhere with a tutorial mission. Special for him. The tutorial mission requires you to complete the main mission, and your reward will be an astonishing 4,000 skill points, which is just the amount required to reach rank 3 of his ability even. Jean is surprised and wonders what type of main mission will be this. Suddenly his face changes when he sees how the sky Venus invokes a mysterious island. This is the new field called the Island Channel of the Sky, and its main mission is to clear the field. Since it is a special field, will be full of smiles, and in this case they appear to be aerial reflections. The system requires you to clean it for the good of the Earth, since its very existence is a threat to the planet. The appearance of the island of the sky is reported throughout the country, alarming people and the members of the Use Association. The Players Association is acting under emergency circumstances. All of these airport flights have also been suspended. And according to the experience of citizens, the only notable effect is that they cannot obtain enough sunlight. In terms of the international situation plus feels, specials have begun to appear all over the world. For example, The special field in Japan is also unique. A mass of Earth, half the size of the country, has joined forces with Tokyo, but in your case it is not an island in the sky. So Koreans, they think they are having a much worse time, as they also have to deal with the lack of sunlight. Mientras tanto, our boy realizes that the field, especially in Japan, is even worse. It is a B-level, and level creatures, 70 or more, are tearing down Tokyo with ease and in destruction. That means that even a mirror is comparable to a rank warriors. Suddenly, it is actually the Koreans who have it. Easier at least, they are not being destroyed by high levels. Since the existence of the special fields represents a great threat to humanity and the Earth, the association has requested official government support to raid the field, problematic, as soon as possible. Is being carried out a strategy to counteract the island of heaven, and all the players who join the assault will receive an incredible reward for his efforts in cleaning up the field. Kim seems to quiet and realizes that things have taken a worse turn than I expected. While playing with the system, tries to look for a gap that may give him more skill points without doing anything. The guy believes he is in some kind of game of poker by disaggregating the details of the mission. Realizes that at the end of the main mission, he will have more than enough skill points to improve all your attributes on one level each. This actually motivates you even more to help clear the special field. Finally, the staff member returns to show him the artifact he asked for. By who? Open the box and evaluate your statistics using its system appraisal effect. Both the ring, damn, as the bracelet, do not seem to be special. Give you an additional 100 mana, but with the spirit of taking away its strength and agility. Basically balances it. If Geen opts for the set, will obtain around 400 mana, additional, what will be of great help to you. Even if your other attributes diminish a little, he thinks playing with magic is the safest bet, so it's okay with that. At the same time, wonders if he should buy a mid-range armor in addition to that. So ask for the price, and what do the lady think? Casually tells him that it will cost 400 million. The price is so high, but our boy decides to act calmly and professionally, leaving as if I had not had a heart attack, seeing the price right now. Anyway, let's move on to the part where Jian and the other players are waiting at the entrance. He was also not having fun with the glasses he bought, so he spent some extra money on a body camera. What makes it wondering why he did not buy the body camera from the beginning, as always, is a good idea. Check community farms for warnings. So check this forum and learn a lot of information, different from the commentators. It turns out that the heroes of the field are much more powerful than some players expected, which makes it easy for some to be eliminated. Is so fascinating, in fact, that the forum administrators issued a warning to alert the melee warriors who are to keep out of the battle, as toys are in the air. There is nothing they can do about it, and as it is an island in the sky, players also have problems in obtaining an adequate supply of oxygen. All these comments, they only presage bad news for our boy, who realizes that they could be facing a ranged field of instead of one of rank A away. He doesn't care, and thinks that these cowards, they are probably exaggerating as usual, until suddenly, he pulls it into the entrance and teleports to the island. Change on the ground is really impressive and very cool, even for our boy's eyes. Also notes that the Greeks do not appear to be aggressive at all, or so he thought, because at that time, hears a loud cry coming from the air. What makes him turn to look? Aerial failure has caught one of the players, who is crying inconsolably because he is terrified. The kid is not having a good day, because on Tuesday releases it from a considerable height, killing him immediately. A lot of these creatures, like animals, begin to surround it. But our boy dares to challenge them to come and try. Is so ready to cook them with his ball skill, a fire right here, and get some fried chicken with that. But to their astonishment, the boys don't even pay attention to him, and instead attack a nearby tank. Also, the tank in this case is the bad girl and her brother, whom Juan immediately recognizes. The Greeks their descent by charging their shield, but thanks to its iron barrier, are safe from every attack. This gives the rank magician the opportunity to cultivate their ability. Firestorm this from a specific part of the mirror, enveloping each of the birds with their flames and tearing them all down. Our boy is quite impressed. These witness the incredible amount of damage of its ability, as I didn't expect these two to be so strong. The girl Bad is a little disappointed and unimpressed for his experience so far. While his brother reminds him not to let his guard down, Jen evaluates its options. Already acquired the fireball ability by copying it, so he wonders if it should be enough. Greedy to copy also Firestorm. Bad girl yells at her brother, expressing that the presence of a healer could have prevented the serious injuries he suffered that time. Also deeply regrets not having been able to recruit Giant and his incredible healing skills. Now, in a twist of fate, sees our boy struggling to scare away to a lot of cute ones. Slimes that don't leave him alone with his legs. Jean experiences a revelation when he sees the bad girl and her brother watching it from afar. That must be super pregnant. She greets him and asks him if his beloved Ela is busy. The face of the Prota shows his complete depression over how he has just humiliated himself and lost all its aura. The little mass monster is trapped, saving our boy from his worst battle against a boss. So far the type feels bad about his expensive shoes, acting like they're $1 million or something. To say the least, the tank is not at all impressed by this. Hopes that they're his sister. Have a reaction, sensible, and finally stop obsessing about this fool. But to your surprise, the girl is smiling broadly, noting that she is still with this. Ela the magician acts all friendly to our boy, mocking him, saying that the universe simply wants them to be on the team together at this point. This is bad news, because our boy wanted to hunt alone on this mission and cannot reveal exactly their powers in the face of these two, who think he is a healer. The bad girl promises he has nothing to worry about, as she will help him overcome the special field. Realizing that he now has few options, he accepts his destiny and thinks that he should copy the ability of healing again. So, she says yes, which makes her very happy. As you need to use your copying ability in the ability to healing, tells them that he will be back after a break to go to the bathroom. A few moments later, the trio is attacked by the same type of arrows. Only this time, they have become more intelligent in their approach to the types, are carrying enormous rocks to crush the tank iron barrier. Clearly Juan has no chance in this battle with its limited powers. What is even more worrying are the rhinos that are stamping towards him to attack him just as he prepares to launch something against them, and Jai advances casually by giving it a wink, pointing out that she will take care of this. Use fireball, which is another of his skills. Not only that, Iji activates Rain of Fire and Spear of Fire as well. The offensive exit combined of the three defeat all heroes without any problem. At the end of the battle, our boy stays puzzled by the realization that he didn't even have to do anything. Impressed by Iji's performance, asks him if the rank players tend to have as many skills as she does, because that makes you ask yourself what type of skill set we have in rank player. She confirms that it is true, but he also tells her that these skills are learned by purchasing skill books, which is a long way of saying that she purchased the skills for a considerable amount. Advancing towards his next opponent, it seems, the aquatic beast, while Hiji and his brother face the monster. Our boy looks devastated and sad standing in the back, bored as ever. Jean decides to activate his fireball version, which is incredibly large, even larger than its normal size. Is surprised by the unusual scale of his own attack. As for Hiji, she's behind him because that ball of fire was even stronger than the one she used. It turns out that Jean forgot his gym skill test, which increases the damage by 20% in exchange for consuming mana. The Protee tries to casually disguise, saying it's just a skill defensive that he learned as a healer, but the bad girl doesn't swallow her excuse and asks her directly by the amount of mana that has, as a manipulative expert. Tells him that he has a decent amount, when in fact it has a lot for the average healer, thanks to its mana reserve. Can use the same ball, stroke, the fire at least 13 times as much. What tells you everything you need know about your reservations. However, he does not want to be too aggressive, since his role is supposed to be that of a healer. Anyway, his brother is not at all pleased. At least the other players as well. Suspect our boy's abilities, which means that you must play in a manner cautious and use their skills only when necessary. Talking about it, another group is killing Slime's cute toys. The guy with the haircut, extravagant, wants them to continue to focus on the shoulders. Flyers, his friend, is a little upset because they are busy dealing with those weaklings, Slimes, instead of dealing with the real threat. So they tell him to go and fight against a great shield and die a proud player. The system announces that the number of dead on the island has reached a requirement specific to invoke the boss finally. So, the players hope to finish him off quickly and end with the special field, or so they die, because the guy that they will face is a giant called the Lord of the Island. Members of the group are surprised to see an angelic being descending from the sky, appearing as the holiest existence, but don't be fooled by that smile. Because this guy is incredibly strong. When the Sword of the Heavens activates, an attack that invokes a sword for every dead angel on the island, increases damage output by 1% for each sword, and also allows for other effects while on the island. This ability is measuredly powerful, is problematic, because it is an area-based attack, in a shower of swords on the players. Anyway, Hiji's brother struggles to defend itself against these hundreds of swords. Practically the reflection of the barrier. At least it is protected, because the other players are experiencing a wild hell because of the swords. Even the tank is at the limit of its strength. It turns out that even by blocking the sword, you are inflicted with a weakening that reduces all your statistics. The weakening lasts for 10 minutes, which is too long for your situation. Jean heals him constantly and directs its attention to the unknown, level 59 chief. Almost all of his skills are at the level or higher, and its base statistics. People's faces are also powerful at first glance. Says he has some kind of strategy, but the strategy is quite funny, because says they should flee as quickly as possible while they can still. The scene cuts to the commentators on the forum who are attacking the Atlantic boss for being so incredibly strong. By the looks of it, he knocked down 1,000 players by himself. The very island in the sky has been turned into a cemetery, and everyone thinks that there is no hope for no one with that boss around. The chief angel reappears after a while die, different from the last time one of its wings turns black. But that only refers to his appearance. The swords, controlled, continue to fall on the players like rain, just like last time. While snow rains swords. Now, also experience the second weakening that steals their energy. You also remember the nice slime balls from before. Because perhaps it would have been a good idea. Kill them after all. Because you are creatures really. Gave birth to boys without owner and with eyes. Jumpers who massacred players in their weakened state. Watching the video of the battle, Jean is alarmed. It turns out that they escaped from their previous encounter, and it turned out to be a smart decision. Taking into account the abilities of the chief engineer, Jean understands he has no time to lose. Especially with the weakening of the chief engineer starting to affect. Is surprised by a sudden call from Hiji, who greets the healer and inquires if he tried to attack the island of heaven a second time after they left. But of course, our boy has not done it, since he is not prepared. However, it is not as if they could waste time, since the special fields are affecting the entire planet. Worst of all, just like in Japan, the heroes of the island from the sky were beginning to evacuate the island and their fury in the cities. This means that Seoul is in big trouble and will only get worse from here. Iji reveals that they have formed a large team to counteract, specifically Yahello, boss, and is curious whether he will join them or not. This is good news for Jian, and a few days have passed. The assault team gathered in the Great Park, the same place where our boy usually does his business. Some of the players gathered there. They are surprised to see so many names, important in the team, have come here for a meeting to discuss their plans. To see the popular hunters become part of your team, who feels like an imposter among the elite group. The question is whether it will be up to the task. Also didn't exactly come in his usual robe, so he wonders if he will be okay. He shakes his hand and calls him. What a hero to our boy is, who feels nervous among strangers. Jean points out that he is only an ranked player then. Why he has the right to be in a group of elite players of rank, bitter that. Sunji reminds him that it can be a rank, but his skills of healing are much more superior than that. He assures him that you will need as much help as possible in this mission. Talking about it, the leader of the assault team finally arrives, appearing before the group. Even AG is excited to see the guy, while Jean is to be in the presence of the class warrior of the number 1 guild Lazan. The leader begins, suggesting that first evaluate the individual skills of each member before discussing the plan to confront the boss. That's why they will do a warm-up session for now. Iggy is excited and waiting. Take revenge for the previous meeting, while our protagonist is shot. The leader's order may appear quite direct and severe, but no one dared to object. Looking at his bat, this man named Jung looks incredibly imposing. We jump to the battle scene on the field, and a group of lizard warriors is casually shot down, impressing even more. Ian, with his talent, quickly comes to its senses, remembering that their statistics are so low that acting as a Jungkook would be a death sentence. The only reason why Jean has survived until now is thanks to the elementary ring that powers your statistics. That's why he knows that sticking to magic is the best thing for him. However, although it lacks experience wielding a sword, something in Jung's movements is nostalgic and familiar yet does not want to be reckless, and tells himself that you must forget any physical combat thoughts until you can safely increase your stats. For now, it is focused on healing the wounded. Combat at that distance is also very dangerous, but inside Jean's mind a voice from his former self, the one who defeated the Demon King in other worlds, resounds when he sees her wielding his sword with such dexterity. Your old self reminds you not to waste their valuable abilities by letting them rust. Stunned and speechless, Jean observes from his sight how Jung uses his rank abilities, which allows you to absorb the statistics of the last killer to kill. Increases disappear after 5 minutes, but if he kills 10 killers in a row, earns additional statistics. Also powers its magical power and agility by 10%, turning it into a true force of nature. All this time Jean had been looking for, desperately, an increasing skill, your physical statistics, and now finally has found gold with Jung. The warrior rises on the corpses of the murderers he struck. Shortly after the defeat of his henchman, the camp chief appears, a poisonous lizard named Kinga. The appearance of the boss alerts the players, but let's be honest, it's no big deal for Jung. Activates its special ability Broken Limit. That allows you to up a whole range at your capacity, offensive for 60 seconds. In a state of fury, Yonga annihilates the boss with a single cut of his sword before he can even make his first move. The boss is instantly defeated and his soul absorbed, which increases the statistics of each player. This is how the raid was completed without any problems. E.G. is a little jealous for not having had the opportunity to show off, while her brother thinks she is ungrateful. Considering the enormous effort they made on their part, she is pleasantly surprised that even without participating, actively players still receive rewards. She tells him that this is not really the case, was thanks to its constant improvements and weaknesses that obtained contribution points automatically. For a long time, our protagonist wondered how his healers rose in level so fast, but now he is beginning to realize that to play as a support, in reality, is quite easy. Finishing the small warm-up, Jung turns to them and expresses that he will be in charge of organizing the distribution of rewards. While giving a long explanation, our boy is completely, because your attention is not in the boring talk, but in an ability called the Catalyst he obtained after defeating the boss, who wonders if he will be able to use it well, but he is not really interested in. What really matters to him are the brilliant new skills he gained, both ranked above this rank, and both are incredibly powerful to improve their physical statistics. The leader addresses the healers and asks him if he is drunk or something because of the strange gesture on his face. At this point, Jean doesn't care about anything else anymore. Just wants to go home and start experimenting with your new skills. More days pass and the raid team has not yet invaded the island. Floating, who is completely exhausted and decides to open the status window, has finally scored 4,000 points, and with it you can destroy the universe boss without too many problems. The funniest thing is how he got so many points. Add to eliminate a total of 120 essential in their daily raids, only to reach this level. The missions appear as often as now that he doesn't even have a chance to rest yet. Is happy to at least receive missions, even if it ends up in pieces afterwards. Jean stands up enthusiastically, which causes the system to upgrade your copying ability to level 3. After spending the 4,000 points, his skill is finally improved. In his original plan, he wanted to combine the two skills he got from the crab's incursion to improve their physical statistics, but with the appearance of Yon, now has access to even more absurd skills, which only makes you wish for a 4th copy slot to use your best abilities. Combine Authority, Blood Frenzy, Brightness, and Resistance to change with attack ability would be completely unbalanced. Imagine 3 reddish enhancers in a single attack. That's what Jean wants, and he thinks that by that point even would surpass the very Ayazan, although he would have liked to have 4 slots. We'll have to deal with the 3 he has for now. So copy Fireball, Brilliant Authority, and finally, exchange Resistance for the next foray. In the following scene, Jean faces a monster with a diabolical scar on his face. Knows that this unfortunate person is going to be reduced to ashes with their new enhancers. His massacre in the countryside was as that attracted the attention of forum commentators. Is now famous for being the psychopath who eliminates all with a single ball of fire. One of Jean's hidden videos shows how he managed to attract a field chief away from the main group, and just as the giant snake was about to bite him, threw a fireball, huge, that caused an amount of damage. Absurd in a single burst. Your Mexican identity is now an important issue in the forum, not to mention its impressive speed. That people start to wonder if he is really a magician. Focused on the snake, Jean saves a couple to throw their ball of fire and then runs out for his life, while the snake chases after him, but it happens again. A single ball of fire is enough to destroy anything in their path. The players are left with by their strategy of weakening the boss with constant damage. In the following scene, we visit the world's #1 player, Muhammad, who has an hour and a half off. Muhammad feels isolated, watching over and over again the same video of the 7th player defeating the mountain snake. His assistant asks him if he is worried about the psychopath. Muhammad nods, convinced that this guy is actually Jian. Hasn't even spent that long since he gave her the elemental ring, and more importantly, this ring does not affect the resistance, so its achievements should be based on other skills. Seeing him fight, Muhammad feels you are watching a professional with years of combat experience. The irony is that while Muhammad admires him, Jean is scared to death facing the snake. Even if it looks great in the eyes of others, Muhammad also mentions their interest in these union and asked for information about them. His assistant explains that there have been many reports of recent sightings, and hearing that is entrusted with the task of closely monitoring both Jean as well as the Guild of Assailants, because it is obvious that the world will notice it more and more. And Muhammad definitely doesn't want the raiding guild messes with the guy he considers his friend. Talking about the Assailants Guild, your boss is also watching the same Jean video, defeating the snake mountainous under her identity as a psychopath. That means that the Assailants Guild is also keeping a close eye on it, so Jean will have to be careful. The Protar check the latest updates on social networks and is immediately upset when you encounter with a certain video. Squeezes the jaw while grinding teeth, clearly upset because he was the one who did all the heavy work. But those who uploaded the video are those who are making money without lifting a finger. What makes it worse is that it doesn't even appear only one picture in the video showing his face. What only feeds his frustration and makes him begin to question whether he even has the right to his own image at this point. Then an idea hits him like lightning. Why not upload the video itself? Without wasting time, draws his phone, thinking of recording the footage with a plan clear in mind. This time think monetize your channel and earn that money on your own. Even thinks of the title, perfect and sensationalist to attract views of who starts fantasizing about what to upload. The video of this raid on the channel would go viral and fill it with visitors. Even consider the idea of creating an account completely new just for this, thinking it would be better if people did not relate it to the always trending and totally in person of the psychopath. Imagines himself doing rich overnight with money. Viewing yourself by receiving the golden button from YouTube just for posting a single video. With a smile, enjoy the fantasy of a lifetime. Luxurious long before any of it becomes a reality, but soon returns to the cold reality in front of him. Now, he wonders how the hell he's going to collect materials in this dark night as a mouth of a wolf when he can't even see where he steps. Just then it appears, a daily mission window of rank. That provides you with a list of tasks in exchange for an upgrade and a box of random objects. So far Giant had only received E or F rank missions, so seeing one of such high rank takes it completely unsuspecting and begins to regret coming here at night, especially after having missed all day, sleeping like a bum just for catching a simple snake. Begins to consider complete the mission before their skills restart at midnight, without wanting to miss the opportunity. While lost in his thoughts, sees a blue glass sphere on the floor and picks it up. Without wasting a second, turns out to be exactly the essence that the mission window asked him to collect of the special field, which means that he has only 9 more to go at the beginning. Thought he would have to defeats to obtain. these objects as a reward. But it turns out that the mission wants you to review each corner of the field, as if the essences were playing hide and seek with him. Finds the mission more irritating than expected, and if it were not for rank, he would probably have forgotten it completely by now. Especially considering how much asked to run only to collect these bright spheres just when N prepares to continue a sudden ambush of a poisonous takes it by surprise from behind. The gigantic bird almost managed to tear it apart, but somehow manages to dodge her by the skin of his teeth and saves her entrails. The dodging part is a bit strange, because did not believe he had that capacity. Then realizes that perhaps it must be using simultaneously its ability to authority, brilliant and resistance to change. Without wasting time, throw a fireball and incinerate the corpse. Instantly, the explosion of his attack attracts the attention of some nearby hunters, who wonder who the hell is hunting flies in the middle of the night. Its leader seems cold and clearly satisfied with defeating Kennel. Before you leave, has the opportunity to steal the limelight when their subordinates ask you what to do if other users interfere with the incursion. He coldly orders the elimination of anyone to appear without a second thought and make sure they do not make it out alive. Back with Jian is already finished with the home part of mission failures, has also managed to collect 9 of the 10 essences needed, which makes it appear that it could complete the whole mission well before midnight, has even survived in the field for more than an hour, which means that it only fits find that last bright essence. Just then, hears a loud noise and turning over to see where it came from, sees a huge angelic angel floating in the sky. The vision begins to disturb him, since the incursion scheduled by your guild is until tomorrow, and if things go on like this, would rob the boss before they even arrive. The masked looters launch their attack against the alleged channel boss, which only increases their concern, while the whole situation gets out of control. At that moment, a new mission that asks you to conquer the special range field. To top it off, it appears a rank submission. The Who orders him to defeat the chief who has invaded the land, and also completely destroy the special field. Jean reflects on the content of both missions. Whale try to decipher what exactly it means to conquer. As there are no details, additional information on how much you have to do, he wonders if the mission expects you to capture the suspect. Taking it as an extra opportunity, decides not to give too much thought to the matter and simply sit and enjoy the chaos from a safe distance. Just then, the masked group manages to knock down the monster next to it, that crashes to the ground, and they immediately announce, which is your chance to finish with the beast and claim the reward. Jean remains sitting comfortably on the grass with a relaxed expression, enjoying the action as if it were a nighttime movie, and learns that the boy has fallen because his health dropped 50%. What now prevents him from flying? Not only that, but that this moment also marks the beginning of the third phase of the battle against the chief. ManhwaCapped is beginning to be enhanced by a massive improvement. A sudden gust of wind blows and our boy covers his eyes in dust. At that time, his gaze rests about the last essence I had been looking for. Jump in to pick it up, humming a melody and thinking the easy way out, which was to find her. Just as he picks it up, the masked men fall down near him. Guys on the floor get up quickly and notice our boy there. Approach him asking him who he is, then assume that it is one of his own and tell him to get up quickly because they will need it to confront the magicians. Jen stands up with a mask in his hand, wondering who those guys are, so strict and deciding, go with them for now. As he goes with them, he thanks them mentally to the guy who stole the mask from. By joining the group with its mission system, issues an alert indicating that the mission has been completed and the upgrade is applied to it of the range mission. While a user hand-to-hand combat with the boss to keep it going away from the rest, someone attacks him from afar with burning blue flames. All looters wonder who the hell can be behind a power such a huge chest. My interest Tanto, our boy feels something dirty for causing so much damage from the shadows and keep all the loot without really taking any risks. But he's stuck thinking about what to do with the upgrade, ridiculously powerful that he received, since doing too little could suspicion, but going all out would put it in the. Yet he cannot deny how fun it is to completely destroy this alleged suicide boss with his broken and overpowered statistics. However, the group realizes soon of his presence once he gets too carried away. At that moment the boss launches one of its abilities and summons improved heroes to the island, while the boss sings his summoning spell. outposts and rhinos suddenly appear, forcing the looters to divide their strength to dealing with chaos. A group of external players who have no idea stumbles with the scene, and they wonder why an incursion is occurring before its time, announced what bothers seriously to the masked men who are running everything. When one of the outsiders dares to question them, the masked leader does not hesitate for a second before mercilessly cutting it, knowing that everything will go to hell if his clandestine operation is discovered by Yan, shouts to his followers to eliminate to all intruders on the spot by any means necessary, which leaves our protagonist completely astounded, as I did not expect these lunatics will go so far as to kill in cold blood. At the sight of the assailants become absolutely savages against the innocent group, Jean thinks running for his life would be the smartest plan. Just at that moment, their one and his team arrive to save the day, and our boy realizes immediately that it is in serious trouble. Assault leader laughs in Jung's face, mocking how his team, improvised, can do nothing, and accusing him of ruining his assault as if he were a murderer. But the man responds calmly, saying that it's pretty silly to think that he can get away with killing people, much less stealing a boss. With a smile that screams madness, tells the psychopath that no one will even remember their names, and then launch against the group of assailants as if they had barely would be worth it. A guy passes with our grandfather by telling us with indifference to the side, before you start planning how to get out of this disaster. Right after that, the boss begins to attack everyone in sight, and the assailants decide that their best chance of getting the final blow is eliminating all the healers of the opposing team first. As chaos erupts around it, Jean starts to sweat more than a player of Battle Royale in a team fight, desperate to find a way to defeat the boss before everything gets completely out of control. Your thoughts are seen and abruptly interrupted when Younger crosses enemy ranks like a killing machine, cutting off anyone who gets in their way. Mintra's Tanto, son and brother, are busy cleaning mirrors. Insect when an assailant tries to attack it from behind. Just as he is about to hit her, blue flames explode around this and incinerate it before it can, even attacking, leaving AG paralyzed by surprise. Turns around to look at the hooded figure behind the fire and realizes that he is the one controlling those flames, as elegant as they are deadly. When her brother runs up to her to see if she is okay, she tells him that this humble man actually attacked his own team just to protect her. At the same time, the clock is getting closer and closer to midnight, while our grandfather dodges among Jung's group, running like Sonic to stay alive. The watch finally marks midnight and Jeans pulls out his phone immediately to copy the following ability. The Serene Paradise still fights monsters like a real boss. And while that happens, Jean activates its new enhancer and coincidentally points a finger at enemies, throwing an exploding fireball like a raging volcano and turns Argentines into snow ashes to paint completely speechless. The assault leader saw this, snaps his tongue in frustration and joins Jean to take down the rest of the minor heroes. Covered by a wave of gene enhancers, becomes completely unknown under the effects of his blood frenzy ability that increases your stats with each enemy you kill, and finally throws one last ball of embracing fire against the boss, leaving him deeply asleep. The explosion burned everything in their path, and the assailants could not help but to ask whether this final blow really did the job. But the emotion of Hen turns to frustration when he realizes that he is not finished yet. With a change of presence, terrifying, the boss enters his final phase then. Wielding his massive sword, lowers the gun with such force that Sun's brother barely manages to block the wave of shock using his defensive ability. The impact throws everything and everyone in the air like rag dolls. Ajin feels a chill run down his back at the thought that you are about to meet your creator. Out of nowhere, an unexpected guy appears to save the day, and while he watches it, completely speechless, the man calmly tells him that he now owes him a favor, just after being saved by Eiji's brother. Our boy immediately launches his ball skill of fire directly to Cannel, destroying the corpse right in front of Cannel. Balls and the pile of loot that revolves over his remains leaves. Of course, this was part of a boss system. Immediately, and a down step forward to claim boss, and coldly warns assailants to turn away without causing any problems. The leader of the assailants, that he had planned to stay with the boss for himself, responds by reminding everyone that no one in his sound judgment would underestimate the power of your wizard. Mintra's Tanto, Jean receives a notification which says that the main mission has been completed and that it is about to be teleported to the tutorial field where you can choose your rewards. The assailant looks at him, feeling that Jean is strangely familiar to you, but cannot identify who he really is. Just then, our boy gets ahead quietly and take the bounty of the 7th boss. By the time this must, he realizes that the guy in front of him is the psychopath. Jean has already the loot with a big smile on his face, proudly proclaiming that how he was the one who defeated the boss. The object obviously belongs to you, the masked guy, and jump in and grab him. But just before reaching it, end system is activated and teleports it. Thank you all behind, furious and knowing full well that they have just been swindled. Once in the tutorial field, Jean wonders if he really just ripped them all off. And just at that moment, an avalanche of system notifications appears in front of him, overwhelming him completely. Try to find out if they are reward alerts. But before you can read them, a small fairy who is presented as Iho, your official tutorial assistant, explains that now that he has completed his main mission, she will be the one to guide it for the rest of the tutorial, who starts to get nervous and protests, saying that no one mentioned anything to him about an assistant. Wondering if this will be exclusive to certain events, linked to unique level traits such as their egos, kindly asks permission to initiate the process of reward collection, and when he accepts, a panel titled as an improvement option appears, detailed specialty. She explains that the improvements specialty were as second evolutions that enhance current skills by adding new features. Then shows you the list of current skills of Jian and asks him to choose one for improvement. He starts to think about it and first considers improve your passive income ability, imagining that it would increase skill points you gain from attacks. But then he realizes that it's still too much, weak, and begins to wonder what would have happened if the incursion would have occurred before midnight, when their skills had not been restarted. Maybe he wouldn't even have been able to beat Cannel. With that in mind, decides that the best would now increase the number of available skills. So choose to improve the sample for copying skills and gives it a significant improvement. Although it is entitled a little bit when I see that now the ability is divided into 2 parts. The fact of having 4 available daily copies encourage you immediately. His eyes shine when he imagines, if I could be lucky and reach 8 copies per day in the future. Ego asks him if you want to review the rest of your rewards, unclaimed, and he instantly accepts. Of the random object box, obtains a sword that throws explosions of fire, and upon receiving another object with fire attribute, is frustrated by how everything he gets is always related to fire, and of course, this sword is no exception. Later on, open the rewards box of master skills of the main mission that improves. But thanks to the large number of skill points it receives, but the surprises don't end there. Also unlocks a reward additional that adds a new subline to one of your abilities, and this time an extra row of options appears. Exciting. Reviews the object obtained from the boss to know what kind of loot it is, and to their fate. Turns out to be a damn grade cinnamon necklace. That gives it an increase in statistics, so high that it leaves him speechless, and begins to think that if the object is that powerful, then the ability of the boss must have been even more fearsome. Unfortunately, check it out, and effectively discovers that if the boss's life would have lowered the dropped tribute by 10%, would have restored all your health and increased your statistics 50%. What it would have done, it was totally impossible for Jean to beat him just then, when he realizes that their skill points has exceeded 20,000 points. So without wasting time, begins to invest them in their skills, starting with the safety skill sample, and continues to spend points one after the other, becoming stronger and stronger with each improvement. And once it finally ends it all, drops to the ground isolated and exhausted, knowing that for now there is nothing more to worry about. Just as he lies down to have a lunch afterwards, quietly release the pump, than the real tutorial is just about to begin, then asks him if he remembers the final line of the main mission. No longer thinks and vaguely remembers something about the survival of the earth and humanity. To the fairy, and asks her what that ego is supposed to mean. Without hesitating for a second, tells him that basically means that your entire world is about to be destroyed by invaders from another dimension. Back on Earth, a squadron of soldiers stands firm on the door of the portal guarding. After the Jung raid, is located in front of a sea of reporters and tells them that his group was beaten up. Serious interest on the part of these assailants, who appeared out of nowhere and robbed the boss. Adds that at least they managed to defeat the boss, even if those crazies manage to escape after giving the final blow. One of the journalists, asked what the boss and Jung let go of, responds that it was definitely something that improves statistics, but the constant insistence on more details starts to get on his nerves. So he turns around and tells them, to everyone who has nothing more to say, relaxed in her fire apartment. Lady watches live broadcast from her cell phone. His brother casually comments that the guy who appeared to save her would probably already be crushed like an omelette if he had confronted each other. To Jungkook one by one, she dials the hen number, trying to discover the truth about our protagonist, because even if his magician's robe is basic, a ball, a fire capable of eliminating the boss with a single blow, is not something that anyone can do. Completely ignores his brother when the call finally connects, then greets Jean with a hello and directly asks him if he was the magician who saved her during the raid. He tries to get her off his chest and keep a low profile, but Fide Lady proves that she is not stupid, pointing out that he did it for his team and his pathetic beta male complexion even if he continues to play dumb. Calmly replies that she does not even appeared in the raid in the first place and apologizes for not having been able to assist in such a dangerous mission. Then she leaves her and her brother, completely confused when they say who has been locked in the bathroom all this time, and tells them that he will hang up, already at home. Finally relaxes a little, knowing that probably she will not call him again soon. For now, she gets rid of her crush's constant calls, who is clearly out of his league. And his mind returns to the world of tutorial, where that voice continued, appearing in his head reminding him constantly that the world is under threat from invadings from other dimensions, and that it is his job to save it. The voice explained that its power of skill teacher is a broken skill granted by celestial beings to fulfill this mission. Although he still does not fully understand the picture, asked him why he was chosen in the first place, and if it had any kind of connection to the divine, but it didn't take long in realizing that he is simply a fool, anyone with nothing special, and the voice told him to stop thinking so much. He explained, who is a special user who has already killed countless beasts and cattle enormous rewards. Then with an unfortunately serious tone, let go of the truth actually. He has no choice in all this. When he asks her what the hell is talking, the voice calmly responds that it is not a great discovery, but which by chance carries divine fragments as the one chosen to save the world. And how I decide to use that ability, mastering depends entirely on him. After releasing that, he asks him if he wants to simply to settle in and abuse his broken ability to obtain easy profits, or if you are going to accept the heavy responsibility to save the world for the greater good. At the end, he tells her to be an angel does not mean that I have to choose the difficult path, and that the decision is only yours. Back to the present. Jean thinks that saving the world is far above the mental level of a loser. Beta like him, and the idea of eating chicken crispy with beer cold after a hot bath thrills you much more than any Iranian destination. At home, Sony is absolutely thrilled to confirm without a place. The mysterious hooded magician is undoubtedly none other than Jean, because everything in it fits perfectly with its unhinged pyromania. Her brother observes her in silence, while she insists that she cannot be completely safe until I see it face to face. He asks his sister why he becomes with a loser, as if she were a teenager, pointing to the part that says that the magician is of S rank. She smiles and explains which users like them, who fight in fields of S rank, and die at any time. So if you want to reach the top, needs that psychopathic magician by his side to make it happen. That doesn't surprise him too much. With a sigh, tired the murmur that is fed up with dealing with his little sister, tells him that if he really wants to live long enough to become number one, maybe she should stop throwing herself headfirst into everything like crazy. But she ignores it again and makes quick calculations, trying to decipher what type of person is Jian actually. With full confidence, predicts that his next destination will be the spider cave of ranked, making his brother. I looked at her as if she were completely high on illusion. The next day, his expression is completely flat while observing how he chat quietly with our protagonist, who has just arrived to sell his loot. Without losing rhythm, she tells him to stop acting and be sincere, saying that he knows him from head to toe, and tries to be quiet, insisting that it is only a neighborhood healer and nothing more. But she clearly does not believe it. Seeing his sister intimidate his brother's pathetic attempt at manhood, finally lets out a long sigh and raises his hand, tells Jean that they have to leave, and offers to pay him 500 per hour. I carry it with me, because it knows better than anyone else than to try to change his sister's mind is a total waste of time. After the two of them get a little away from her, He casually mentions the favor he owes him, then Jean moves his hand away with a sigh and murmurs that is just helping because he is being paid a good sum, which makes him, Iggy, be illuminated immediately, but just before they can leave, who starts sweating in spurts and nervously asks the girl to relax a little because he urgently needs to go to the bathroom. That brings a stunned smile to his son, who was already there. Noted in his personality notes suffering from diarrhea to his brother's horror and disbelief. When he returns, the girl on fire does not contain herself and asks her directly if it is the magician who disappeared after helping in the attack of this, and if he is also the same madman who calls himself a psychopath. Jian, however, tries to resist, making up an excuse that he didn't hear well and did not understand what IG said. While the trio walk through the countryside spire cave class, the girl remains insistent, even offering to keep his secret, noting that he or she works in the same industry as someone who wipes the sweat from his forehead, realizing that he can no longer hide the secret, and asks him not to share it with anyone else. After she confirms her promise, comments that everything makes sense now, noting that she seems to have more magic than her. Our boy quickly explains that it is all due to the equipment bonuses, and Jai then asks him about the skill book he uses for his improvements, assurances. His brother interrupts them both, pointing out that this dungeon looks like a high-level field, with a lot of monsters on the prowl, tells them to stop playing and get serious. Endes sheathes his sword of fire and jumps to the front, declaring that he will open the way. The sight of his sword leaves Eiji speechless, wondering if Jean is also a magic sword user. Being the master of excuses, Jean quickly invents another, explaining that he could not, and that, given his excessive level of power, he will. This sword is better than nothing. Who then gets serious and decides to change from fire to ice spear. As a teacher of skills, has the ability to use all kinds of techniques and make the most of that, testing the ice spear. In addition, his status as a master of skills allows him to combine various skills. So match your ability to position with the ice spear. This combination invulgate the Karamabanos with sensitivity and achieve to kill a good number of spiders. Then our protagonist activates his catalyst skills, which amplify the effects of aging, turning it into critical once it accumulates in 3 levels. Although it is not as powerful, this ice magic is not bad at all, and Jean realizes that he can use it to prevent being caught. Iggy can't believe what he sees and asks Jian if he wasn't a fire wizard just a minute ago, but he does not give him a clear answer. Later the trio is sitting and enjoying his food, while Jian, loose, depressed, wanted to leave as soon as the hunt was over. His mind goes back to what happened in the dungeon there. Inflicted great damage on the Argentine chief with a single attack, and also absorbing all the soul of the field chief, the queen, spider. Because of that, Iggy and his brother received nothing. What left him with no choice but to stay and eat with them. Jean tries to take out those thoughts from his head while having a sip of his drink, but the manic girl interrupts him with a proposal. Points out that suicides are not the only threat in the countryside, mentioning how pit fights often break out between different groups. Talks about some other things before launching a contract. When Jean asks for affection, she explains that it is difficult to find reliable users in this industry, and that now that they share a secret, everything has changed. She gives everything to convince him to sign the contract, even offering him an office, completely equipped with all the luxuries a man could wish for. Jean, after taking a look at the contract, comments that the conditions are too good enough to even think about rejecting it, and as a result, ends up signing it later. The insistent woman hands him a debit card, telling her that she can buy whatever she needs with her. Also assures him that he will be in charge of the money I earn from hunting. Then asks him if he needs further explanation, to which Jean denies with his head. He acts like a child, to whom they have suddenly granted all their wishes. After that, goes hunting with Iggy, and this time the hunt is easier than ever. She also blushes a little when she realizes how pretty she is, who is his new manager, no longer envies his model to follow, and now that he has the ability, realizes that life is doing quite well for him. Is wondering whether to use the fireball in conjunction with combat. Bloody would create a powerful attack. Excited about the idea, is filled with energy and races towards his new manager, asking them to get ready to go to the countryside. The next day, Gidgey's brother looks at her with suspicion at the sight of it, completely in love, and asks her if she really dies enough in Jean to go to a field of ranks is only with 3 people. She shrugs on its shoulders without giving it importance and says that they have been going on for a long time, wanting to try but he reminds him that the level recommended is high above what they can handle. Just at that moment it appears our protagonist, who is barely level 15, and tells him not to worry. The big guy does not hesitate to point out that Jean is clearly the weakest of the group, and that an incomplete team makes the field even more difficult. But our boy simply replies that he has it covered, as he trusts his broken frenzy ability of blood to get them out of trouble. Inside the rank dungeon, known for its cunning damn plant that jump when you least expect them, most of the teams carry at least 2 users of damage in area just to survive. But this team has something different. Giant throws a fireball and incinerate wooden containers with outing, what leaves the brothers gawking while roasting it like it's nothing. With his typical looser face, Jean is confident that his personal trait takes his fire magic beyond the limit, and its plan to chain all skills, broken pieces you have copied, works perfectly. Continues to massive explosions of fire, eliminating monsters in big waves, just to show off how ridiculously powerful it is. Digi's brother watches him, while laughing alone like a lunatic, and Sunny can only look at it with that same face of disappointment, while he almost gets on top of himself in the midst of the frenzy, acting like, "I'm the coolest guy on the planet," while leaving, completely absorbed by its fire spells. Mientras tanto, the guy observes it from a distance with his eyes fixed in it. It seems that the subject is transmitting everything live to a screen somewhere and reports calmly to his boss, who already has this target in the crosshairs. It turns out that the man who is watching the broadcast is actually the real leader of the raid, and the moment he sees the guy who messed with him, a malicious smile begins to appear on his face. She continues to roast holes from one side to the other as if nothing had happened. Game after of itself piles of bright booty, like a trail of dreams. Broken, walking on the corpses of their enemies undeterred. Quietly picks up the falling objects and laughs to himself, augmented how fast it is leveling up. Out of nowhere you notice something and silvery on the floor, kicks it off with a big smile, without even checking whether it is an object or simply hidden. But the atmosphere changes all at once when he realizes that what he has in his hands seems to be a human wrest, and ends up screaming like a child, so strong that his voice practically is to where Niji and his brother are. Seeing him this altered, the two run up to him and ask him if he is okay. Quickly explains that there is an unknown there, and that perhaps without wanting to, unearthed someone. On closer inspection, Aiji goes into Sherlock Holmes mode and tells him to calm down, because the skeleton is too clean. As to be recent, she deduces, who was probably a user who was completely looted, as there are no weapons or armor in sight. After saying this suggests, it is best to finish and leave from there fast, and his relaxed attitude leaves completely Jean puzzled when he looks at her confused. She explains that the murders within these dungeons occur all the time, and that the worst part is that no one can really prove anything. Surprised by how much he knows about it, he asks her directly if she has ever been attacked like this, and she smiles, saying that she not only survived it once, but the one who tried it was from his own group. It turns out that when they were hunting together, the guy attacked her from behind, trying to rob her, that special thing, and unlike the Greeks, it is almost impossible to know when a human partner is going to betray you. Trying to remove him tension to the matter, she jokes about how hot she is and says that probably the guy wanted something more personal than just his team, and then, without giving it importance, admits it was the first time someone was unhinged. Gigi's brother only looks at her in silence as she shrugs her shoulders with a mask, saying guys like this deserve to be roasted, so he honestly didn't mind doing it in the end. Tells Jean to sleep with one eye open, because there are too many crazy people out there, and that he should rely on his handsome brother to cover his back. Sin Saber Quellos, Jean's physical stats far surpass those of his brother. With a burning mask, Jean presumes that he would not fall to no less terrifying than Aniel, and she laughs, giving him credit at least for having the courage to say it, just when he says he is serious. The small pheromone bomb falls near his feet and releases a cloud of gas, intoxicating, that leaves all three of them shaky and weak in the knees. At that instant, a horde of terrifying wild trees, the brother begins to approach. Sanchez takes the lead to protect the group as a good tank, but Henna's reckless as ever. Ignores it completely and launches himself straight to the shoulders as a total boss, shouting that he has everything under control. What he does not know is that James Bond Sheep already has its crossbow loaded with a birote aimed directly at Giant, as if his name was written shortly after these. Birote is shot, and the sense Arachnid of Hour is activated just as it makes contact. But instead of going through it, the thick rope of steel is ridiculously against your skin, as if he had hit a brick wall. While the brothers scream in panic and admire the failed attempt and bursts into laughter, mocking his presidential hopeful. The thinking that I could, tearing down his rock body with such an excuse for a weapon. But the laughter doesn't last long, because all of a sudden it reaches it, a disgusting combination of stun negative effects, slowness and pain that instantly put him out of action. Falls to his knees moaning in pain, while the brothers stay paralyzed watching them collapse in absolute agony. In the distance the guy smiles loudly, savoring the moment you have been waiting for. All this time, Jian is thrown to the ground with force, and Kimaju runs to help him, throwing a spear of fire to chase away the suspect. Burns it to carbonization, but more heroes begin to charge them. What makes it difficult for you? Defend themselves, and at the same time protect Jean. You know you have to decide quickly, and suddenly tells his brother to make his way as he carries the dead weight of Jean on his chest. Without wasting time, the two fight against the horde of savages, dodging explosions and overcoming the impossible, just to get out alive. Just then a guy, blonde, blocks their way by asking where they think they are going, mocks them for trying to escape, without even fighting. Hai's brother demands to know who they are. It is clear that they have issues with Jian, and they tell him to let go and get out of here. Tension in the field soars, but Kimiji does not back down. Another spear of fire to keep enemies at bay. Adamantly refusing to abandon Jean, but the blonde deflects the attack as if it were nothing, leaving her stunned. Then he drops the tab. He was in the incursion of the channel. The blonde smiles and calls her pretty beautiful head. Hollow, as they do not want to cooperate, decides that everyone has to die and orders him to his team to blow it all up. A pink cloud bursts, attracting nearby heroes. The blonde gloats, saying they can no longer use pheromone bombs so often. Now waves of smiles begin to charge the trio, but that doesn't stop them in the midst of chaos. Jean, still unconscious, feels a deep pain. Your body refuses to move, and your skin burns as if it were on fire. His mind is cloudy, wondering if this is how it happened, with no idea what is going on around him. Just then, Jian's eyes open to a horrible scene. Kimiji and his brother have completely eliminated the horde of savages, but both are seriously injured. No longer understands anything and barely manages to ask why they took such a risk just because of him. His mind remember when Kimiji told him to hide behind his brother if things got ugly. Noticing that he finally wakes up, Kimiji asks him if he can walk, but Jean ignores the question and makes a shameless request. Asks them to keep all this a secret. The blonde mocks sarcastically of how well he replied while carrying that luggage. Good for nothing, Jean. Lee says it won't hurt. Nothing compared to what is coming. Suddenly Jean stands up, surprising Kim Mayahi, who had no idea he still had strength left. Blonde looks at his battered body and mocks. Sure, he must be suffering from horrors. Jean does not deny, directly admits that it hurts like hell. But that guy is already planning to tear him apart and leave his bones rotting. Just then, Jean snaps his fingers, and the blonde laughs, thinking they are preparing to throw a ball of fire against the barrier that they have ready. But Jean asks calmly if they are really sure of that. Out of nowhere throws a shower of spells in the air that clearly do not seem to fireballs. That's when the blonde man begins to suspect that Jean could be the one who stole Mohammed's ring. Just at that moment, Jean throws meteor shower, and blonde guy panics, thinking that it could kill everyone, even with its own squadron. But Jean does not hesitate, fires a burst of spells, as if I were just warming up. The ground is destroyed with enormous circular cracks, and holes burst on all sides. The trio finally gets a championship, and Jean falls to the ground panting, barely managing to survive, thanks to last-second teleportation. It turns out that shortly after midnight, Jean had been its 4 skill slots. Had copied ball, explosion, the fire inside blood combat, which left a free slot. Then he saw a video of a guy shooting, a call to a bald man, and teleported right after. It wasn't really a matter of confidence. He simply thought it was the smartest. How to have insurance. Turns out that teleportation is a trait unique that allows you to score a goal, and when you throw an ability, you can move with that Jean lens. Basically, hit the lottery with mass teleportation. Can't believe he even got some additional bonuses. Feels it's his lucky day. So of course, dances with happiness back to the present day. Jean promises to explain everything later, with things solved. Kinichi, ready to pick up all the loot that those fools left lying around. Mientras tanto, people in the countryside are speechless because, open to the enormous cracks and that cover the area, even someone is joking, saying that it looks like Mohamed passed by sweeping through there. Jean may have narrowly been saved, but he knows it won't happen long before anyone traces it. On the positive side, has just reached level 20 and has unlocked its subplot skill storage. Is now officially activated later. Kim, Ayaji and Ayaji's brother listen while Jean explains what it means to be a skills teacher. Describes it as a class skill, that allows you to copy other abilities. That's when everything starts to make sense. Finally realize that the strange healing of Hen, its very high damage, and its improvements, all come from copied abilities. Himeji asks him if he can copy her or her brother's abilities. En says it is possible, but points out that being a tank without equipment does not work very well. Him's eyes, Maya shine as they imagine Hyen's insane potential, wondering how far he can go. We're uncomfortable. Says the details are confidential information. Iji's brother brings you back to the important topic and asks Hen if you have any idea who attacked them. Hen assumes that it is the same group as the incursion into the channel, while Kimiji trusts his instinct and believes firmly that they are from the guild assailants. To explain it better, Kiniji shares recent rumors about a group called Robbers Guild, known for collecting items from bosses. Jean admits that he has crossed paths with them before. Kimiji then reveals something from his past, saying that he was once offered to join their ranks, but only if he accepted use the boss items they provided. Jean wonders what the connection is with the group of sinister monsters. She explains that the attackers, they carry a catch of boss items, which are extremely rare and with very low procurement rates, which makes practically impossible for a single group to bring them all together. Himyeju believes that everything is connected, as an organization with roots and branches spreading throughout the world. And to top it off, its leader remains a complete mystery, now that Jean has made enemies of that caliber. You know you have to be much more careful later on. While resting, Juan reflects on everything he has caused lately. With so many incidents accumulating, feels that his identity is close to being discovered, and that is one of the things that worries him the most. Knows it has to become stronger before that time comes. For now, it only depends on one skill. Fortunately, your status window shows a good amount of skill points. About 30,000, all obtained through daily missions. Whatever happens, and even if it becomes difficult for him to fulfill his daily missions, Juan makes sure to continue consistently accumulating skill points. Spends 5,000 points to level 4 a unique sub-ability called Passive Income, which gives you 1,000 skill points every 24 hours. Honestly, likes the idea of points accumulating as long as he is lying around doing nothing. With regard to the rest of the points, decides reward the skill that places him most pressure on the field, so it invests in providing traits by raising it to level 3. Now any copied skill receives 2 unique features, and he can choose one to apply, even a grade trait, and offers an enhancement in efficiency, and 1 degree will be even better later on. Review the highlights of skill storage. Using a copy count allows you to store an ability, and the effects of blue grade are better than green grade. However, once a copy count is used, it is not recharged automatically. If I had known earlier, would have permanently kept Blood Fight copy. Since video, only the original degree is preserved, and that does not change. Even so, Jean knows exactly what skill he wants to store, and that is resistance to change. Once copied, you can use it without limit. Now they have is list resistance to power change, radiant and blood fight glides. Keep trying your luck until the skills are upgraded by copying. Also decides to take a few days off, well deserved. But this plan does not last long. Muhammad catches up with them, and Jean has no idea why his time is there. Of retirement is interrupted by this visit, surprise, and it turns out that Mohammed came looking for it. Mentions how the actions, Ein's psychotics, have become quite popular and have stirred things up. But they have already been managed, so there's no need to worry. Carmetti. Attention to know the real reason for the visit. Mohammed says he wants to know his opinion, to confirm that the attackers are part of a global-scale group, the Assailants Guild, and he is already at war with them. That's how he got some information. The Assailants Guild is currently meeting at the Skagen resort, Amsuke, to search for a hidden treasure left by his leader. However, it cannot directly help because their movements attract too much attention, which makes this mission even more risky. Ismail cuts off the meeting and Muhammad leaves the decision in his hands, whether they want to stay safe or go to annihilate the enemy. Two teams line up face to face when suddenly out of nowhere, a hand appears. Being a beautiful woman, and she is holding what she seems be the tail of the red dragon in an open and of eyes. The man greets her, excited to call Miss Linsa Olin, but instead of greeting him, she hits him in the forehead with a playful smile, sending it flying like a rocket straight towards the wall. She casually calls him and tells him that his information was very wrong. Apparently these is the leader of the guild, is dead, which makes her the new head of the Assailants Guild. Just at that moment, all bow to Lena Saulin with no other option available. From now on, I need you to forget it, his boss, and clarifies all the confusion in the act, and thus, Lena Sauli becomes the leader of the Assailants Guild. Since then, tells the henchman that the shoulder patterns have been traced to the 20th floor and leave them in charge of classifying the materials of the packaging. Also asks what is happening to the old man's faction is. Then when he finds out that 98% of the former followers have been eliminated and the rest will be dealt with soon, likes what he hears and orders the recovery of the treasure, intact from the old man who is kept in Korea Lin. Saulin makes it clear that the days of the monkeys, without being able to get lost, they are over. This is the era of superpowers, and anyone else is bold enough to challenge the boss and govern the special field must earn its power, and the throne belongs only to her. Jean is enjoying his time to the fullest at Skagen Station, Jansky, for the first time, although far away, to be a fun zone due to this that circum the snow remains frozen year-round and constant snowstorms and roads, ice cream hinders movement, which has affected the site's reputation. Himeji just wants to finish the job, so that you can enjoy a little while. My interest Tanto, Gigi's brother, thinks it's silly that only the three of them came. Himeji suggests returning Assailants to the guild, and reveals who incidentally sold the boss item under his name, when it was, which makes it a target. Just like Jean, Gigi's brother is clearly upset that they are the ones in charge of everything, but Himedi tells him to relax by reminding him who are three veterans who have gone through many things. N is surprised that she called him a veteran, but she backs it up, pointing out how survived both the incursion of the chief as to the attack of the group, saying it deserves a better title. As they head out into the field, she leads the way forward only so that guild members in joy blocked with death threats Kim Maya ask if they are with the user association or have the right to claim an open field, but the fool tells him to get out of here, saying that the area is under his control. That bothers Jayan, who thinks that even if it is not a mirror, should at least protect what matters to him. The fool makes fun of Kimiji, telling him to come and hug him, and he promises softly console her. What hits your nerve? Eiji's brother had had enough, and who carries a fireball in his hand, furious that the fool dared to point the finger at him with a sword, wishing to be strong enough to break it. The fireball attracts everyone's attention, and quickly realize who he is, the psychopath, backed by two renegade veterans and a tank. Jean, without thinking of standing idly by, decides it's time to show what it really is to have control. The guild thugs in joy start to tremble, murmuring that his guild came first, but Jean doesn't care. Throws a fireball directly at them, taking them by surprise. Can't believe that the psychopath, crazy, really threw it. Juan stares at them, warning that if he is ever attacked again, they will be as dead as if they were already dead. Kim, Eddie, and Iji's brother notice how different he looks, sharp, confident, and directly dominant. But just when they say it out loud, the usual behavior of Jean reappears. Even he feels weird making threats, joking that blackmail could be more his style. Inside the field, the heroes begin to surround the guild members in joy that have been benefiting from controlling the area. Suddenly a fireball appears out of nowhere, terrorizing them. By a man with a white cape is interposed and presented with, like a hunter, the guild fool in joy says the area is off limits to outsiders, claiming that it is already full of levels 40 and suggesting review other field. But the man in white wants to see who it is that is really expelled. His group assaults the field, knocking down enemies and opening his own way forward. Green Hood breaks for not having realized how the guild in Joy was driving the place. The man in white orders them to be divided in 2 groups to seek out and eliminate any threat without interruptions. Its objective is to reach the part deeper and higher from the field to find the bracelet. Jian and Kaimeti are excited. Totally excited to be at the Sky Resort. The brother, Eddie, stays centered and reminds them to focus on the real problem. Exposes the main point that the Guild of Assailants is not just a random group of amateurs, and if they want to get ahead of whatever is coming, will have to strike first with a preemptive strike. Also, they still do not have a form clear of differentiating the guild. In Joy of the Guild of Assailants is then when Jean notes that the Guild of Assailants is dedicated to the treasure house and does not care much about engineers' experience points. That little detail gives an idea, naughty on Jian's head, and a sly smile begins to form on his face. Mientras tanto, at the resort Eski someone launches a pheromone bomb, and the entire area filled with thick pink smoke, surprising everyone. In a short time, a wave of arrows begins to attack, charging directly at people as a unstoppable tide on the other side. Yan and the others witness the chaos unfolding, watching the but terrifying scene from afar. Juan captures the idea immediately, remembering how those rascals once used the ability of the bomb of pheromones against them. And now, it is quite sure it must be horrible to be on the side. Receiver of that observes the chaos with a look of satisfaction, feeling a little pleased. Yet Eddie's brother points out that there is no solid way to confirm. Yes, it really is the assailants, but Jian explains it as if I were teaching the big guy a lesson. If those fools below do not run away from wave of reinforcements and still maintain their position, it can only mean one thing: it breaks down. If they are a group focused on cultivating experience or pursue something important enough to take the risk, Kamaji adds that judging by how they are using their skills, each of them is well above the recommended level for this area. Aiji's brother finally gets it. If it is not the experience points, then there is definitely something else that keeps them there. Knowing that their goal is not the heroes, they decide to follow them and add a small bonus before you leave. So Jean throws a bomb in the middle while Himaki silently asks whether Jean has always been like this or if something in him has changed. Mientras tanto, Green Hood asks for location on the map, heading directly to the Jean cave. Hits the mark when his plan works and locates this bricks from the Guild of Assailants. It turns out that Jean has been storing something special just for moments like this. But in the midst of all this, feels that something is out of place, planning a massive ambush for the people who tried to kill him. Does not understand why he feels so calm. Suddenly Kimiji checks to see if he is okay. Jean calms their concerns, knowing that they cannot waste time being lost in thought. Then he realizes that he never expected the reinforcements were so talented to appear uninvited. Volunteer to recognize and hide. There proved to be an excellent choice. His henchman agrees, pointing out that there were too many people at the beginning to carry only one object. The suspects were undoubtedly arrested. Suddenly, everyone is surprised by an attack. Surprise with crossbow. The stairs fly through the air, and a guy demands to know who they are, frustrated, because although he dodged, he was still beaten. It turns out that Juan shot him with the weakening bow, a weapon that applies slowness and pain for the next 3 minutes, and even stuns the target for 1 minute if your health falls below 30%. Jean thinks that this guy's health is still above 30%. But is more than happy to leave him. Feel the weaknesses now, planning hit him and finish him off. Once your health reaches 0, this guy is panicking, begging Jian to stop, but that's not going to happen next. The Green Squadron would contacts the Reconnaissance team, asking if there is a problem. But they report that they have lost contact with the people at the entrance, as if someone were attacking them out of nowhere. So Green Hood takes over, alerting everyone to protect the treasure at all costs.